I was thinking the other day that it was quite unusual that you guys didn't know who Tom Sawyer is. And while I was thinking about it, I realized that this is actually my fault. Because Tom Sawyer is, so what you guys say these days, Tom Sawyer is a trigger for me. Because of a certain specific incident that happened in my life as a direct result of reading Tom Sawyer. And I think this is why I've never read the story to you guys, never told it to you or anything. So when I was about 9 or 10, I was reading this book. And there's a bit in the book where Tom and his mate, Huckleberry Finn, they find a beehive and they smoke the bees out, and then they open the hive up and they get to the honey inside, and it's just wonderful. It's like nectar of the gods, and they spend the day just gorging themselves on this wonderful honey. And this sounded just too wonderful to me, too beautiful. Now out the back of my house, about 100 meters into the bush, there was this big old acacia tree, giant thing, must be about 15 or 20 feet high. And towards the top there was this beehive, a big beehive that had been there for years. And I read this and I thought, man, you know what, I'm going to smoke those bees out and I'm going to get to that honey just like Tom and Huck. So I went and stole a cigarette from my mum, and I grabbed a box of matches and I put them in my pocket, and I took my dog Sandy, who was this mental German Shepherd. They had the brain the size of a peanut. It was hyperactive, but he was my best mate. So I grabbed Sandy and off we went into the bush to the acacia tree. And I started to climb up the acacia tree, and Sandy thought this was just the most wonderful thing. And he was racing around the trunk, barking and yapping, and I just climbed and climbed. And so I got up to the top where this hive was, and I kind of was holding on to the trunk, and I put the cigarette in my mouth and I lit it with the match, and then I took a big mouthful and I blew it into one of the holes on the side of the hive. But unlike in the book, where the smoke made the bees just very drowsy and non-violent, and they could just reach in and scoop the bees out and put them down without getting stung. Instead of this, the bees came flying out of this hole like lava from an erupting volcano. And they went into my mouth, they went on my face, they went down the front of my shirt, and they just started stinging the shit out of me. And so, in a panic, I dropped the cigarette and I let go of the trunk and I started to fall. Now, acacia trees are a thorn tree, and they've got these giant thorns like 2 or 3 inches long, and they sit in clumps of like 3 or 4 sticking up on the branches. And as I fell, luckily in some ways, because I was very high up, my fall was broken by a branch. I landed legs akimbo on a branch. That means that the branch directly whacked me in the gonads, squishing the possibility of me procreating in the future. So you're lucky to be here. But as I landed on this branch, I also landed on one of these clumps of acacia thorns, and they stabbed right into my buttocks. And then I rolled and started falling from that branch, and these thorns tore at my ass, gouging out a big hole in one of my buttocks. And then I fell the rest of the way to the ground, which was about 5 or 6 feet, and I put one of my hands down, and I broke my wrist as I hit the ground. And I'm still covered in bees, by the way, getting the shit stung out of me by these things. So I'm lying there on the ground. You got to picture the situation. It's not a good situation. I'm lying there on the ground with a broken wrist, a big hole torn in my backside, covered in bees that are stinging me, and I'm starting to get lumpy, and I'm crying, and there's snot and tears everywhere. And my mad dog thought this just was the funnest thing of all, and he was so excited. He was so excited that he leapt on me and started humping me. My dog started humping me. And you know what? It was a happy ending for him, not for me. So I think the reason I've never told you this story is because, although I quite like the story, Tom Sawyer lied to me. This guy Mark Twain that wrote the book, he lied to me. He told me nonsense about how to deal with bees and hives. So that's why I don't like it. But you go ahead and read the story. It's a very good story. You'll enjoy it. Love you.